Good morning, students. Welcome to the quantum chemistry lecture. This is, in fact, our second lecture that we are having. And today I'll be discussing, as I pointed out in my last class, we will see a couple of important modern physics experiment, which actually ultimately led to the discovery of or the development of a new beautiful subject, that is the quantum chemistry. Okay, so let us look at the first aspect, that is, the radiation has the particle nature. So we know that radiation, or the electromagnetic radiation, we consider it as a wave, and the particles, we know that we have wave and particle, and radiation has a wave nature. So that is something that is revealed by many of the modern physics experiments, and we shall see those things. Okay. And before going to those experiments, I'd like to ask you a very basic and fundamental question. What is a particle and what is a wave? Anybody can answer one by one. Just unmute and then say what is the definition that you would give to a particle or to a wave. What is a wave or what is a particle? Elizabeth, I hope you are there.
Yes, sir. A particle is a small substance. Sir? A particle is a small substance.
Please.
And also a wave is something that a motion like wave. And a particle will occupy some space.
All right, anybody, any better answer?
The wave is a
So if you are
particle is not continuous.
1 minute. If you are typing in the chat box, I will not be able to see. Right now, what is there in front of me is screen. On the screen, this presentation, nothing else. You are seeing my face. I know that because I have switched on my video. Therefore, you can see me while talking. But for me, I can't see your face, none of your face. I can see only the presentation. So if you write something in the chat box, definitely I can follow it up. Okay, so please unmute your mic and say one by one. Yes, somebody is saying something, please. Yes, please.
The
Okay, somebody started the
wave is a vibrating disturbance.
Okay. And what about particle?
Particle is something that has mass and occupies space.
Particle is something, it has a mass and it
It
occupies some space. So this is okay, good. Who's what's your name?
Sanjana.
Okay, Sanjana. Can I have some other definition or the more scientific definition?
So the particle.
Quickly.
So particle.
Please say your name. Please say your name first, and then you answer.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
So I'm Kavya.
Okay.
Particles means some particles have a momentum, velocity, mass, such properties. Okay, then wave means and then some particles having wavelength, wave properties like that. So indifference.
Sir, particle is discrete while wave is continuous.
Discrete and continuous. Okay. Okay, let me put all these things. Most of you are very close, but not exact. So let me give the scientific definition of what is particle. Particle is characterized by energy and momentum. Particle is something, anything that you can call it as a momentum and energy. Okay, the moment I say momentum, then it should have mass and it should have velocity. And of course, a particle should have energy, right? So that is the most accepted scientific definition of a particle. And then what is a wave? Wave is characterized by amplitude and wave vector that actually describe the propagation of the wave, right? The wave, how do we write it? Sine wave. What is the expression? So it is like a sine wave or cosine wave, that we have, mu is equal to xt, mu is a function of x and t is equal to amplitude multiplied by cosine mu xt, something like that we write, right? The same thing, that basically what it defines. So initial first part of the A actually stands for the amplitude. It will have amplitude, whether it is a small amplitude or a big wave amplitude. So that is a characteristic of a wave. The second thing, that it is a propagation. Since it is a wave, it is moving. It is not static, or it is basically a dynamic thing. It is continuously propagating. So which direction it is propagating? So that to describe that quality, we have wave vector. So wave vector actually describes the quality of a wave, which direction that the wave is propagating. So those are the two definitions of particle and wave. Now, particle wave, basically both are entirely different thing as per the so-called classical physics laws. Okay, both are basically exclusive properties. Okay, and the waves, can exchange any amount of energy according to classical physics. Waves can accept, since it is a wave, it's accept the energy in any amount of the energy, and then it dissipate to the neighboring waves. Okay, so you just try to understand the ripple that happens in the pond or water in a lake. Okay, when you disturb it, the wave actually propagates. So whatever the amount of energy that you give, that energy will be basically propagated in a sequential fashion. Okay, so both according to the classical physics, both the particle and wave are mutually exclusive in nature. Okay, and we will see how these actually, as I pointed out briefly in the last class. So as at the end of the 19th century, so there are many so-called many modern physics experimenter. They basically challenged the existence of the physics laws existing at that time. So the classical physics composed of classical mechanics, thermodynamics, and electromagnetism. So these laws actually could not explain some of the modern physics experiment. And one such a problem is the black body radiation. Okay, so let me ask you a question, very simple question. Before going to the discussion of black body, suppose if you are heating a solid object, what exactly happens? Have you ever noticed? Anybody?
Sir, color changing.
Color is changing. How do you know that? Have you ever seen?
Yeah, sir. First of all, there's a red color. Then increase the heating. That become more red. Yes, sir.
It becomes more red.
Yeah.
Where you have seen this? You have seen it, or you have read somewhere?
Sir, yeah, sir, heating something, stove.
What is that? Can you say it again?
Sir, heating something in stove.
Oh, Sabas. What's your good name?
Manjima.
Manjima. Very nice. So that means you are helping your mother in cooking. Right? Yeah, exactly. That is the point I just want to bring to you. I think you all might have known, the black body radiation. It is not a 1 year story or one instance story. It was there from 1850 to 1900. So this radiation, the study, how solid objects behaves when you are heating. Okay, this is the problem. This is the question asked by the scientists at the present at the time, and they were keep on working on. Not only solids, actually, they started with the gases. They started with the gases. Gas, we have so many gases. So gas, you take it to gas, you just heat it. What happened? You just absorb. That was the experiment. Okay, they have done some experiments on the gases, and what they found is that, unlike the gas has a discontinuous behavior. I mean, the spectrum, when they try to plot the spectrum, okay, so as a temperature, okay, you take a gas and then you are heating. When you are heating, what exactly happened to the gas, they try to plot it in a graph, okay, temperature versus the radiation which is emitted by the gases. We have so many gases, oxygen, nitrogen, okay, chlorine, all these things are there. So these gases are actually somehow captured in a tube, and then they try to heat it. And when they are heating the gases, what exactly happens? Is there any thing is happening? If anything is happening, they try to record it in the form of graph. That was an experiment. That is where they began, and then later on it continued to the solids. Later on solids. So they took solids, and then they were trying to heat the solids to small temperature to very high temperature. Okay, and gas molecule behavior, what they noticed that with the temperature, the radiation which is produced, so they observe like, radiation is produced when you are heating the gases. Fine. So how the behavior is? So when they plot the temperature on the x-axis and y-axis the radiation, and this behavior is not a continuous behavior. Some kind of line-like spectra they have observed. Okay, irrespective of the gases. And with the linear increase in the temperature, they did not observe any kind of continuous frequencies which are generated by the gases. That was the first point. Now, they extended the same experiment to the solid objects. This phenomena, even we can also notice that, in the burner, when we are working with the stove, gas stove, we can see that initially it will be red, right? And the core of the flame, I think you also would have worked the MSc General, the BSc General Lab, the Bunsen burner. So we have several regions of the Bunsen burner, core and then outer, and the temperatures are basically different, right? So initially it will be red, and then slowly it will go to yellow, and then it will go to blue. So blue means roughly its a temperature will be roughly about 2 to 3 Kelvin, 1000 Kelvin, right? So that is the observation that they have noticed. Okay, that is the observation that those people have noticed. Of course, beyond that we could not do it. Beyond certain temperature, as we have limitation, especially those days in the 1850s to 1900. Those years, the people have a lot of limitation in terms of applying the temperature. But if you further heat the solid object beyond the 2000 Kelvin or so, it actually appears like a white. That is also there. And the sun, what we see, it appears in the daytime, is like, the white color. So why is appearing more close to the white or some kind of orangish color? Why? Because its temperature is different. Okay. And its temperature is different, and the same, of course, it has a lot of gases, and then it is giving a lot of heat, and that frequency which is emitted by the sun is different. But of course, when you confine our discussion to the solid, this is a general phenomenon, and we can easily observe that initially it will be red at low temperature. As you increase the temperature, you make a transition from yellow to the blue. That means there is a continuous distribution. There is, with the temperature, you are getting different frequencies. That means it is the object which you are actually involving in the experiment. It is radiating different frequencies. That is why we see different colors. Okay. Now the question is that why we are discussing this. Okay, that we are discussing because this could not be explained by the physics laws existing in those years. This could not be explained in those days. Okay, what are those? As I mentioned, that we have a Newtonian classical mechanics are there. We have thermodynamics. We have electromagnetism theory by Maxwell and Lorentz. So all these three major branches, domains of the physics actually could not explain this phenomenon. Okay, now why you need to explain? why we need to explain is because, yeah, I think let me go to that later. But before that, let me show you what exactly is the discussion of black body radiation. Now, that is a general this thing. So based on the general principle, people actually try to do the experiment in a more scientific way. The scientific way is that, so they have taken some kind of object, actually, that object what is referred to as the black body. This black body can be any object, but it should absorb. Suppose if you are shining the frequencies or radiation on the black body, it should absorb everything in principle. Okay. On the other hand, if you try to heat the black body, it should emit all the absorbed frequencies. So such an object we refer to as the black body. Okay, so this black body is a kind of scientific experiment which was actually performed with many of the people by making the black body with a different type of metals, a different type of composition of metals, and they try to see what is the behavior of the radiation which is emitted when you are heating this black body. So that was an experiment they have done it, and all the cases what they noticed is this. Okay, all the cases what they notice is this: there is a continuous behavior. So this behavior, what we call it as a continuous behavior. This behavior is totally different when you in the case of gases. The same plot, same experiment, which if you do with by employing gaseous molecules, then you will see what you will see is a kind of discrete behavior. This is a discrete behavior. So there is no relation between this point and this point, or this point, this point. So this is called the discrete behavior. Same the wavelength versus or frequency versus the energy distribution. On the y-axis you can rho, and then this lambda or frequency you can plot on the x-axis, right? And when you do it gaseous phases, gaseous molecule, then this is what the behavior, and this behavior is totally different for the solid object. The solid objects, they are showing continuous behavior. That means that with regard to a particular temperature, there is a frequency or the energy distribution. Okay, with regard to corresponding to each temperature, there is a energy distribution. Okay, now this has to be explained. This has to be understood in terms of the available laws. That was the problem. Okay, this is an experiment. This is an experiment, and this experiment can be done. Many people have done with many of the experimental variation. But irrespective of the material with which a black body is made up of, all the metals or all the alloys, they are showing this type of continuous behavior, which is very contradicting with the gas molecules. That was the problem. Now, any experiment when you do, the physics, any experiment when you do, you have to explain the results. Okay, why this is happening. Otherwise, there is no meaning for the experiment what you have done. Simply, okay, you did something, you got something. But if you are unable to understand what exactly happened, then definitely that cannot be called as a science. So the science people are very much curious to understand this continuous behavior, right? It's just like, you know, you can just think of the weather prediction. Okay, weather prediction. So I just asked a question: will it be rain today or tomorrow? Suppose today is already there, almost over. Then will it be rained tomorrow? If I ask this question, that many people will say, some people will say immediately, instantaneous, no. Some people will say yes, it will be rained. Some people will come up with some innovative ideas or innovative thinking. Then no, sir. You see, last month, this, you know, this is what exactly happened. So therefore, there is a probability of raining. No, some people will come up. No, sir. I have taken the statistics of last couple of years of the same day. Okay, the day is the November 27th, and this November 27, there is a precipitation of 50%. There is a chances of precipitation in those years. Therefore, based on the previous experience, I am just saying, okay, there could be a rain, or there could not be a rain, right? So somebody will come this kind type of thing, and some people will say that they will use latest technology. They will make use of the satellites and predict the cloud formation instantaneously what is happening. So they just depend upon the NASA or the ISRO, the satellite information, and they gather the information and they say, sir, as per the okay, the last years also this is there, it's all fine. But then the current scenario is that this is a later technology, and the present which describe the present status of the cloud formation at Kanjanagad or the Central University of Kerala. So therefore, since there is a cloud formation, I would say that there is this much probability is there for the precipitation of rain, right? So you can see that all these things are different theories. What I said was actually somebody said that simply, oh no, there is no scientific basis. Simply just blindly said that okay, no rain. Somebody said that yes, it will be rain. Okay. Somebody said that some kind of data, some kind of experimental thing, they tried to predict, okay, there could be a rain. Past 1 month, 1 month data was considered. Few other guys have gone little back, and then they said they come up with another theory. So these are all different theory, and latest information is given by some other theory. So now all these things, what we call it as a theories. So any theory is validated with the experiment. Okay, you cannot say the theory is correct. So it's only prediction, but you have to say yes or no, or we have to believe so and so based on the experiment. Okay, what is our experiment? Our experiment is that basically tomorrow whether it will rain or not. So now today we have all these theories. Now tomorrow, if it is raining, then who said rain? No, who gave the correct results? Then we have to believe that, right? So in the science also it is like this. So theory and experiments are mutual, inclusive, and then one depends on the other. So whenever you have an experimental result, that has to be explained by make use of the existing laws, and if there is no existing understanding or laws, then people try to propose some new laws, which will be subsequently will be validated by some other scientists. Okay, so that's how the science actually progresses. Similarly, if you have an experiment, we have to give an explanation. If you have a theory, we have to give we have to validate with the experiments. So both are there. So if you have one, that has to be validated with the other one. Okay, now coming to the discussion of the black body, now we have an experimental result. This result is that there is a continuous behavior of the solid, glowing solid objects. Okay, any object actually it is showing, it is basically radiating different frequencies depending upon the temperature. This experimental result has to be explained, and none of the people existing, none of the physics laws could not explain those things. Therefore, people actually, we need some more, we need better theory to understand that phenomena, why, how it is happening. Okay. Before going to those theory, I think probably you all have studied in the physics Stephen Boltzmann law. The Stephen actually found the total intensity that is coming out for the total power per unit surface area. Okay, so which is nothing but the total intensity is rho is calculated by the Stephen with the help of Boltzmann distribution. Okay, so the Boltzmann is a different person. So he made use of the Boltzmann theory, and then the Stephen actually proposed this type of thing. So the total intensity, okay, that is coming out of the cavity of a black body is rho is equal to A multiplied by the sigma multiplied by T to the power 4, where A is a kind of coefficient which is usually equal to 1 if it is a spherical object. That depends upon the shape of the black body. If it is spherical, it is taken to be 1, but if it is having a different shape, then that has to be accounted. And then the sigma, what we call it as the Stephen, is a kind of constant, and its constant is 5.67 to 10 raised to minus 8 watt per meter square, okay, per Kelvin to the power 4. Okay, so this is basically called it as a Stephen Boltzmann constant. What is sigma? Sorry, sir, what is rho? Rho is the total intensity, that is nothing but the total power per unit surface area. So emitted by the black body, what kept at a temperature T. So this is something that one has to keep in mind. Okay, so since he has used Stefan actually used the Boltzmann theory, so it has become the Stefan-Boltzmann theory. Now, the one of the prominent theories for the black body radiation was given by the Wien. Okay, Wien. So Wien energy distribution we shall discuss first. What he has given is, he has used the thermodynamics concept and some of the thermodynamic aspects to explain the energy density. Okay, energy density that is coming out or radiated by the black body. So energy density is nothing but the energy per unit volume. Okay, per unit volume, per unit frequency. Okay, so that is represented with this expression. So nu is the energy density per unit frequency, which is a function of the new frequency as well as the temperature. So please don't confuse, and when you are writing you should not confuse this thing. So this is actually a single letter, but then whenever this thing is depend upon some variables, these are variables. So this mu energy density is depends upon the frequency and the temperature. That is the meaning. So don't think that, don't write like nu multiplied by u multiplied by nu multiplied by t. So one should not write that way. So this tells you that it depends upon these two parameters. So that is the difference. Okay, which is equal to a multiplied by the frequency cube multiplied by e raised to minus beta nu by t. Okay, so that is the one. And a and beta are the empirical defined parameters, and that you can change the value such that the experimental results can be fit into that. Okay. Now, how he has derived this expression? So that is basically beyond the scope of our quantum chemistry. We are not discussing physics. But what I wanted you guys to understand is that there is a theory. The theory was given by Wien, and he derived an expression. This expression we try to understand what it is. How he has done it, just briefly you can say that he has used the thermodynamic principle to derive this particular energy density expression, and he has given this. And what is this in the equation? So there is a and there is a beta. So a and beta are the two empirical constant. You can just vary those parameters such that they exactly fit the experimental data. So you can use whatever the values that you like it, no matter. Then the other things are nu. Nu is the frequency of the emitted radiation, and the T is the temperature at which the black body was actually heated, right? So those are the things. Okay. And immediately you can make out, this theory cannot explain the black body radiation, the continuous behavior, because if you go back and see exactly what is the behavior is this. This is a wavelength versus energy density distribution was plotted. Okay, this is a basically the lambda is here, and then the energy density on the y-axis is given. And suppose if you are plotting the frequency, then this graph will be reversed. Okay, so please note that. So there is a continuous behavior. So with increasing the frequency, basically the energy distribution increasing, and then it is coming down. Okay, it is reaching a maximum and then coming down. So maximum P. Okay, and this is for one temperature. Suppose if you are heating the thing for different temperature, then that is this graph. Suppose if you perform at different temperature, so for different thing you have a different graphs. Okay, now with increasing the temperature, this is what exactly happening. So with increasing the temperature, these are the frequency of the emitted radiation is shifting, right? Is going towards the higher frequency. So that is the experimental observation. So this behavior, there is a rise. You can see the graph behavior is there is a rise and it is reaching a maximum, and then it is coming down. Okay, so there is a rise. Okay, this we call it as a rise, and this we call it as a short. All right, rise, and then what should I say? I forgot the word. Okay, so there is a rise, and then it is getting down. Okay, this has to be explained by some mathematical expression. Okay, this now the question is, okay, we forgot everything at the end of the derivation. We only look into the final expression and see whether this can explain the graph or not. That is the point. Okay, now he has he assumed so many things. So in the theory, you assume so many things. Fine, we don't mind. But then finally, your proposals or your conclusions, okay, are they actually matching with the experiment or not? That is only I will look into the matter. And those are only we are going to discuss. If you see this graph, you can see that nu, okay, nu is a cube root. Suppose nu is 1. It is going to be 1. Nu is 2. 2 cube is 8. Nu is 3. 3 cube is 27, right? So basically there is a linear increase. Am I understand? So basically you are increasing the nu with increasing the nu, basically it is increasing. The energy distribution basically is going to increase. Okay, it is increasing. Then what about this exponential function? That exponential function is there. So what will be the ultimate result? If we combine this is basically the cube function, this is the exponential decaying function. Please remember that the mathematical expressions, I hope that you all know, you all are having the mathematics as a background. So e raised to minus x, e to the power minus x. E to the power of minus x actually behavior is like this, is a decaying function, right? It's a decaying function. Now, what about this function alone, nu cube? Anything to the power cube, basically that is a linear rise. So there is a exponential decay and there is a rise. So now, this expression, but the combination when you take it, this expression seems to be very much valid only at the high frequency region, but not at the low frequency region. At the high frequency region, that means when you are talking about the high frequency means what is the high frequency? Which are in the electromagnetic radiation, which are having the high frequency. So X-rays and then UV onwards, you have X-rays, gamma rays, all those things are having high frequency. So those radiation can be, basically that can be explained. In other words, in this graph, if you see that there is a wavelength versus the energy distribution is given. Basically, the Wien distribution law or Wien, whatever he has proposed, this will nicely fit here. So this region can be, we can fit with that expression only in this region. But when you are going at the low frequency region, it will actually fail. So it cannot explain this. Okay, so that is the problem with the Wien distribution. Wien energy distribution. Then later actually Rayleigh has come up, and then Rayleigh given energy density distribution based on some kind of more scientific assumptions. The assumption what he assumed is that suppose the radiation at a particular temperature consists of a standing waves and produced from the nodes of a metallic surface, just similar to that of a standing wave, equivalent to the harmonic oscillator oscillations. Okay, what he thought was that okay, now the black body, we have a black body, and this black body, suppose if you keep at a temperature T, then it is actually producing standing waves, and the standing waves are very much similar to the harmonic oscillator oscillations. That is his assumed, right? So that is one assumption that he has used. And then, now the question comes, why they are producing standing waves? What is exactly responsible for that? Of course, the metals have a lot of the negatively charged things. Of course, those days, the electron concept was not actually well taken. those days. Of course, it was discovered by then, but then many people still call it as a electric charges and all. The electron concept was not taken. Okay, so since it is a metal, they will have a lot of these electrons, and these electrons are the fundamental particles. So they are actually producing these standing waves. So these are the two assumptions that he has made. So really, in order to derive an expression for the black body energy density distribution, he assumed one thing. One is that the matter, all the black body, they are made up of some one way or other way. It is a metal. So metal is having a lot of electrical charges. They produce standing waves when you are heating. Okay, and then the cavity, when it is in thermal equilibrium, the electromagnetic energy density inside the cavity. Okay, so these are the two assumptions, and once he assumed those things, then it becomes easy for him to derive the expression. So now you have electrical charges, and these charges are producing the energy density. So the energy density that a black body is producing, right, it actually depends upon, it can be calculated by two ways. Okay, first of all, how many those type of charged particles are there, and what is their average energy. Okay, and if you know how many are there, and if you know what is the average energy of those things, then it is fairly easy, right? So each is having, okay, 1 pen is 5 rupees, right? On an average, you have a distribution of the pens. On an average, 1 pen cost is 5 rupees. Okay, and then what is the total expenditure spent on buying the pens? If I ask you such a question, then what you do? So you will take the average and then you quickly give the answer. Of course, it is not exact because you have not taken the reality of each pen. So average only you are considering. So this will be close to the actual value, but not exact, right? So this is what he has done. So now, having assumed all these two things, he tried to derive the energy density distribution based on this thing. So when there is a thermal equilibrium between the charged particles, okay, which are present in the black body, and the temperature, and therefore the energy which is distributed or radiated from the black body is nothing but the average energy multiplied by the number of oscillators present in the black body. That is what exactly he has done. Okay, and then he has found this type of expression. So the energy density is nothing but the 8 pi nu square divided by c square. This actually gives you the total number of oscillators present in this expression gives you the total number of oscillators or the charged particles within the black body. Okay, and this actually, you can see here, this is the energy kept in the brackets. Okay, ket bra and ket notation. So that means it is the energy, and that is nothing but the average energy. The average energy, if you know the average energy, that can be, the energy distribution can be calculated. Okay, now from the thermodynamics, by then already I told you that the thermodynamics is basically established. A subject from the equipartition theorem, if you kept a body at some temperature, it will possess this kT is the thermal energy. I hope that you all know very well. The kT is the thermal energy. Even we are also having a energy, the thermal energy, that is a kT, where k is the Boltzmann constant, which is nothing but the 1.3 into 10 raised to minus 23 joule per second. Okay, kT, temperature. T is the temperature. That is the thermal amount of energy of a body kept at a temperature that it will experience, right? Now the black body you are keeping at the temperature T, right? So its average energy is basically kT, right? So that kT you can just simply take it as an average thermal energy, and that with that you will get the total energy of the black body, that is total energy distribution of the black body. Okay, and please remember that this is the energy density distribution. So that means per volume, per unit frequency. Okay, which is a function of the frequency as well as the temperature. is given by, the Rayleigh expression is given by 8 pi mu square divided by c cube multiplied by kt. That is the law. And of course, this law is also referred to as the Rayleigh-Jeans law. Rayleigh-Jeans law. So Jean is the another person that Rayleigh has taken help. So many of the textbook, it will be written Rayleigh-Jeans law. So both are basically same. Now, how it is derived and all, very briefly I mentioned, but the actual derivation part is not our scope. Okay, but definitely all these things you can find it in the physics textbook. Now, what is the takeover message from this? Okay, the takeover message, now he has derived some expression. Now my question is always the same. Now this expression, whether it will fit the experimental data, what is actually observed by many of the scientists, the energy density, that distribution. If it explains, then okay, I will believe Rayleigh-Jeans expression and his theory, what he has proposed, that there is a black body, and then inside black body you have a lot of the charged particles, and these charged particles produce the standing waves, right? So these are all things that I will believe. Why? Because his theory is explaining the experiment. Okay, but in reality, this cannot explain. You can see that there is no way that you can, it will not come back actually. What is new? New, you can see what are these values in the expression. There is a 8 pi, pi is a constant, okay, mu is a variable, k is a constant, temperature, at a particular temperature it is constant, right? We are not varying the temperature of a black body, we are keeping at a particular temperature, therefore T is a constant in a given experiment. And then C, velocity of the speed of the light, that is also constant, therefore except mu, everything is a constant. So the energy density is actually directly proportional to the mu square. Okay, this mu is equal to mu square. Yeah, sorry, not directly proportional. That means this will keep on increase like this, right? It never, you try to put different values for mu, and then see that you cannot put any other value other than mu here. You cannot keep any other value other than mu here, right? Because the rest of the things are constant. So they will be a constant number, and then you just vary the mu. So it keep on increasing. Okay, you just keep on increasing. You know that very well. 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square, 5 square, like that you can just increase. So the linearly that function is increasing. There is basically what we say, this behavior is a diverging. Okay, so it will keep on increasing, but it will never ever come back. Okay, there is no maxima and then and minima, right? So that's the problem of this expression, Rayleigh-Jeans expression. Okay, this also gives some kind of, and this expression found to be very much valid at the low frequency, but not a higher frequency. As you can see, if you just substitute the low frequency values, the square of a small number, it will basically increase. Therefore, that, at the low temperature, low frequency region, the experimental data can be explained, but not at the higher frequency data. Okay, the higher frequency data was nicely explained by the Wien distribution, energy distribution law, and then the low frequency data is nicely explained by the Rayleigh-Jeans law. Okay, both are having the problem. Okay, and in fact, as a continuation of Rayleigh-Jeans law, there is something what is called ultraviolet catastrophe. This actually gives, this expression also gives the ultraviolet catastrophe, which means is that it only validates the low frequency. Low frequency data actually it nicely explained, but not the other frequency. Why? Because of the expression what he has got is a linear, linearly increasing function, but not a decreasing function. There is nothing in the function that actually decrease the function value. It keep on increasing. So this is basically gives two conclusions. One is that the cavity, the black body cavity, contains an infinite amount of energy because there is no restriction on the frequency. Therefore, basically, the cavity can have any amount of energy, because there is no restriction of mu. Okay, anything value that you can give, then accordingly the energy density will keep on increase. Okay, and why? Because in the assumption he did not say anything. So what is the energy of the oscillator? He did not say anything. Then it depends upon the frequency. If he say, then that is a different story. But he never say all those things. He just simply said that there is an average energy that he has taken. Okay, so coming to the point, this expression actually led to two different conclusions. One is the cavity contains infinite amount of energy. Other means the oscillators of the short wavelength, especially the ultraviolet radiation and also X-rays and gamma rays, are strongly excited even at the temperature. Okay, so why? Because it's because of the linear nature. But in reality, we know that very well. Ultraviolet rays, X-rays, and gamma rays all are having a finite amount of frequency. Okay, so that linear increasing concludes this one, right? Okay, they are having very huge, infinite amount of energy, even if they are kept at the even if they are kept at the low temperature, that is the room temperature. Okay, and also this also gives that a large amount of energy is radiated in high frequency region of the electromagnetic radiation, which is historically known as the ultraviolet catastrophe. Okay, so because of these problems, the Rayleigh-Jeans law was actually kept aside, and then later came the Max Planck. The Max Planck's energy distribution law was somewhat more scientific and which is accepted, and he is the one actually given path-breaking explanation, which ultimately led to the development of quantum chemistry or quantum mechanics. So in the year 1900, he has proposed, of course, he has used the Rayleigh-Jeans expressions. Okay, he has used Rayleigh-Jeans theory and few other people theory as well. But his assumptions are very, very crucial. What he said was that only small thing he has done. Okay, what he has done, okay, there are, Rayleigh has done some assumption, right? So there are some kind of charged particle which are basically, which are primarily responsible for the radiation which is coming out, right? So he has taken that, he assumed that, and whatever he said, that is true. But then he put a clause on that. Okay, so what is the clause? The energy exchange between the radiation and matter must be discrete, and in fact he used the term quantum. Okay, so there the Rayleigh did not put any restriction on the energy, because the standing waves which are produced by the charged particles doesn't have any restriction over that. But what he said that, okay, the energy which is exchanging between the radiation and matter, it must be discrete. Why? Because the radiation which is coming out of that one is basically primarily because of the charged particles, right? And these charged particles are finite. Anything that exists on the universe is a finite thing. So that is where he went in a slightly different approach, and then he was succeeded. So anything on this universe is a finite. Therefore, the energy which is produced by these oscillators cannot be infinite. So he put a clause over there, and then he was very much successful. And he postulated that the energy radiation emitted by the oscillating charges must be only takes place only in terms of the integer multiples of h nu, where h nu, okay, h nu is the energy of the oscillator. Suppose if you have one oscillator, that one oscillator, the frequency is nu. Of course, it is oscillating with a frequency. Just remember that you have a pendulum, or you have the pendulum or simple harmonic oscillator, something like that. So they oscillate with a finite frequency, right? So the energy of that one actually depends on h nu, h multiplied by its frequency at which it is basically oscillating, right? So that is what he said. And further, So that means he is putting the number and then he is putting a clause, and he is also saying that the energy exchange between the radiation and matter takes place only in terms of the integer multiples of h nu. Okay, that's how he called the amount of h nu is as a quantum of radiation. Sorry. So he called that h nu as a quantum of radiation. Okay. And he then basically, based on these assumptions, he succeeded in proposing and deriving the expression for the energy density distribution, right? This is somewhat different than the classical mechanics. The classical mechanics basically never put any restriction. Okay, since a wave can take any amount of energy or can radiate any amount of energy because it's a wave. Okay, we have no restriction on that. But then Planck has put a restriction that, okay, it depends upon the amount of energy. It depends upon the amount of energy that an oscillator is having, right? And that is where he was successful in explaining. And then he has given, of course, he has given that postulate. What he has proposed is known to be the energy of oscillator is quantized. So that what we call it as a quantization rule of Max Planck. And the energy density expression he derived is this one, that the h pi nu square divided by c cube, and then there is a multiplied by h nu by e raised to h nu kt minus 1. Kt minus 1. This is a beautiful equation that actually takes care, that really explains the continuous behavior of the solid object, which you have seen in the previous slides. Okay, so there is a continuous behavior, right? So it is going to a maximum as you increase the frequency, right? The energy density. If you keep the black body at a particular temperature, the frequencies which are emitted by the radiation, basically there is a continuous behavior, right? So there is an increase and then there is a shortfall. Both are basically nicely explained by this particular Max Planck energy distribution, that h pi mu square by c square. As you can see here, this is a linear function. This is a linear function. What do I mean by linear function? Here, that 8 pi is a constant, c cube is a constant, but then mu square is basically what? It's a linear function. So linearly it increasing, right? What about h nu? Of course, you can keep h nu also over here. H nu the nu also you can here. So mu cube, in fact, it's a mu cube. This mu cube is a linear function. Again, it's also a linear function. But what about this one? So there is a 1 over e raised to h nu by kt minus 1. This is basically an exponential function. And it is in the denominator. So what is the meaning of that? This meaning is that, okay, with increasing something, it will basically decrease. Okay, so exponential decay and exponential growth, both functions are there. So this is a perfect combination of linearity and exponential function, this expression. Therefore, it nicely explained the whatsoever the experiment it may be, or whatsoever the black body was made up of, whatsoever the temperature it was actually kept, and then experiment was done. Okay, so all sorts of the experimental data was nicely fitting with this expression. And then if you go back little history, how actually Planck constant was introduced. You know, the Planck actually did not basically try anything to derive a constant. What all he was trying to do, there is experimental data collected by so many experimental people, experimental physicists, and this data he was trying to fit with his expression, and this expression was derived based on few assumptions. Okay, when he was trying to fit the data, okay, and he, interestingly, different sets of the experimental data collected by different people is nicely fitting this experiment, with this equation, only when this h constant is of that quantity. I hope that you are following my logic. Okay, you have done, okay, I have Sajjana or Sanjana is there, and Elizabeth is there, Amala is there, okay. So all these different people, they have done nice experiments, and they collected with the different, okay, one student has done with gold black body made up of one metal, the other one with other metal, the other one with other temperature. So there are different variations that they have done it. Now this is the experimental result. Now he is a theoretical person, he is trying to give an explanation. Okay, and while doing so, all this experimental thing, the H, data nicely is fitting only when its value is 6.625 into 10 raised to minus 26, 36, 34 joule second. Okay, that's how the Planck constant actually, initially it is called as a constant, but later on in his name, it was named as a Planck constant. Okay, it was very nice. Okay, the same expression, this energy density expression, can be converted into the wavelength. I hope you all guys know that the relation between the wavelength and the frequency. So anybody can convert this expression into this wavelength. Of course, you can just work it out. C by lambda is the conversion that you can do it. Now, this expression, the beauty of this expression, when you try to apply some kind of condition, then we can see really the past theories given by the Wien theory, given by the Rayleigh theory. So both are also good. Their theory is also to some extent good, but there is a limitation, right? So this, the beauty of this Planck theory, that they explain the Planck explanation, the equation can be, can be extended so that we will get the Rayleigh-Jeans law, and also we can also derive Wien's law from the Planck energy distribution, this expression. So how it can be done? So briefly I have given explanation. So what you can do, suppose H nu is much less than, H nu is the amount of oscillator amount of energy, oscillator energy, if this is much less than the thermal energy, right? If this is much less than thermal energy, as you can see that, this quantity, this is an exponential growth function, right? So now this one, if H nu is much less than, so numerator, the numerator is much less than the denominator, right? In that case, so this is exponential function. So therefore, you can write this as a H nu, 1 plus H nu by kT. You know that e power x, how we basically write down e power x? E power x is equal to 1 plus x by 1 factorial plus x square by 2 factorial plus x cube by 3 factorial and so on, right? Am I right? But suppose if x is less, if x is less, e power x is equal to, x is approximately equal to 1 plus x. We don't write the higher order terms. We only confine to 1 plus x. Similarly, e power h nu by kt. Okay, e power h nu by kt. And we are saying the clause that h nu is much less. This is the condition that we are applying. H nu is much less. So numerator is much less than the denominator. Therefore, the value h nu by kt becomes small. If h nu by kt becomes small, then the function we can confine to the first order term. So that is that 1 plus h nu by kt. Okay, so the 1 plus h nu by kt. So if it is 1 plus h nu by kt, this term, and there is a minus 1. So 1 and minus 1 both cancel out. And what you will get is basically h nu by kt, right? H nu by kt, and then there is a h nu by kt. So both basically cancel out. H nu and there is a h nu, both get cancelled out. And what you get is that 1 over kt. 1 over kt is nothing but the kt, right? So basically what we are essentially is getting is the Rayleigh-Jeans law. You remember that Rayleigh-Jeans law is basically is this h pi nu square by c cube multiplied by kt. So that precisely we can obtain under this condition. The condition is that h nu is much less than kt. That means the frequency is much less than thermal energy of the oscillator. That means at low frequencies. At low frequency, that is actually the Rayleigh-Jeans law. Rayleigh-Jeans law, what he has derived, is nicely fitting the low frequency data of a black body, right? So that way, it was very much successful. Not only that, we can also derive the Wien's distribution law using the other condition. If h nu is much greater than kt, then we can end up with the Wien's rule. Okay, Wien's distribution law that we can derive. I'm not going to do that, but then it can be done. Okay. On the other hand, the total power or the total intensity. Please remember that Stefan Boltzmann has used the Boltzmann statistics, and then he has derived an expression for the total intensity that is coming out of the black body, right? And that, if you remember, that the rho is equal to A sigma multiplied by T to the power 4. Okay, it's essentially the energy, the total intensity directly proportional to the T to the power 4. That was the Stefan Boltzmann law, right? That expression actually, in fact, it can be derived by using this expression. What you have to do, I told you that this expression is the energy density per unit frequency, okay, per unit volume, per unit frequency. Okay, then now if it's not that you have only one type of oscillators, but if you want the total, then what you have to do, you have to do integration. You have to do the integration, and if you try to do the integration for the total power intensity, the total intensity of the radiation which is emitted by the black body, you have to do the integration. So when you do the integration, you will end up with this 4 by C sigma to the power sigma multiplied by T raised to 4. Okay, so what is this? This is essentially with the Stefan Boltzmann law, right? So there are many good things about the Planck distribution equation. So we can derive all sorts of the previous expressions, especially the Wien rule and also the Rayleigh-Jeans law, and also the total power, the total intensity of the black body, right? And not only that, the Wien's displacement laws also can be derived. That expression is given by lambda max is equal to 2898.9. Of course, you can take it as a 2899 into 10 raised to minus 3 or minus 6 by T. Wien's displacement law, Wien's energy distribution, both are different. Please don't confuse. Wien's distribution, Wien's displacement law and Wien's energy density or for a black body, both are different theories. But this is something very interesting thing, which is really useful. This also actually derived from the Max Planck energy expression, which is very useful. I just thought of to share with you. And the beauty of this particular expression, what you see on the slide, lambda max is equal to 2899 into 10 raised to minus 6 by T. So the relation, there is inversely proportionality between the lambda max and the temperature of a black body. That means if you keep the particular black body at a temperature T, and if you keep on increasing the temperature, its frequency, its wavelength, which is the radiation emitted from the black body, is going to change. Okay, so there is a indirectly proportional. Suppose if you are increasing the temperature, its lambda is going to decrease. Okay, if you decrease the temperature, the lambda is going to increase. So there is an inverse proportionality between the temperature of the black body and also the emitted radiation wavelength. Okay, so that is a beautiful expression. In fact, this is the expression. I hope, can anybody say that what is the temperature of the sun? Can anybody say what is the temperature of the sun?
10,000 Kelvin.
10,000 Kelvin. What is your name?
Sanjana.
Okay, Sanjana, did you measure?
No, sir. I just
Read somewhere.
remembered. Somewhere.
Somewhere. Any other answer?
Around 6,000 degrees Celsius.
Any 6,000 degrees centigrade? Who is this?
Amrita.
Amrita, you measured?
No, I have read somewhere.
But have you asked the question that how it was measured? Have you used the thermometer?
No, there is a device, I forgot its name, to measure sun's temperature.
What is the temperature? What is the device? What is the device?
I forget its name.
Okay, so this is actually the device actually will be working based on this principle. Okay, if you know the radiation coming out of any star, then it is fairly easy to calculate its temperature. How? Because of this thing, lambda is equal to, so this law actually help us to estimate the temperature of the star. How? Just you have to capture the radiation which is coming out of the star. Once you capture, and then if you are able to say exactly precisely what is the wavelength is emitted by the star, then you can actually say what is the temperature. That's how the sun temperature, what some other students at Amrita, that 6,000 Kelvin, that was the, of course we have a surface and inner core. There are different distribution of the temperature. So core roughly about it will have some 10,000 Kelvin or so, but then corona you will have it at the outer surface, it is going to be roughly about 6,000 to 6,500 or so. So this temperature, how we are measuring? We are measuring based on the radiation emitted by the sun. Not only sun, any star you just apply, you try to capture what is the radiation coming out of that star. Okay. So now the question is how we capture the radiation. Yes, we have devices. Just a simple Hubble telescopes are there. So these telescopes precisely capture the radiation. Okay, and these telescopes captures and they estimate what is the wavelength. Lambda max they estimate the maximum wavelength of the frequency. Of course, none of the stars actually will give you only one particular frequency, will emit on one particular wavelength. They emit different wavelengths. But then what is the maximum thing that it is producing? Let's say when you talk about the sun gives a distribution of the wavelengths. Starting from the UV region to the IR, we have distribution. So the sun gives very broad spectrum of wavelength, starting from 190 to almost 1200, 1300 nanometer. You will have the distribution of the wavelengths, right? Likewise, the other things also will give. But the sun one, at 530 or 540, we will have a maximum. We will have a maximum at 530, and that is the position, and that is the value that you have to plug into this expression. You can easily say that, you can easily calculate the value of the temperature at which the sun is there, right? So this is a nice expression. Okay, so with this I have concluded a very lengthy discussion on the black body, because this is a very fundamental thing which really help the scientists to, in fact it is the starting point. I would say that there are people claim that the Max Planck has given this theory somewhere around November, December in the year 1900. And in fact, people say, some of the people claim that that was the date of birth of the quantum chemistry, quantum mechanics. Okay, so what we discussed today is very simple, that I have tried to explain the black body radiation. What is the problem? What are the problems? And the classical physics actually could not explain the continuous behavior of the solid, glowing solid objects. The glowing solid objects were studied by many scientists, and they are giving actually continuous frequencies. The energy distribution is plotted against the emitted frequencies, and it is showing a continuous behavior. And with increase the temperature, the frequency is changing. That's how different colors we see. So those are the observations and experimental results, and those could not be explained by any of the existing classical physics. Therefore, that people started explaining in terms of theory, and then this one of the I have discussed very briefly the three successful theories. Of course, Planck's theory is the most successful, I would say, but even Wien distribution law and also the Rayleigh theory, both are equally good. They're also good, but they're not completely correct, but then they're partially correct. They're also good. So that's what we discussed today. And then in the next class, I shall discuss the photoelectric effect and also the other theories, Compton effect. And then what else we have? Yeah, we have the molar heat capacities. Okay, so these are some of the experiments actually gave conclusive evidences to the corpuscular nature of the radiation. So this is the black body radiation is the starting point, and this was actually taken by the Einstein that we will discuss tomorrow. Okay, so what is the proposal by the Planck? Before I conclude, his proposal is very simple, that the energy exchange between the black body, energy exchange between the radiation and the black body takes place in terms of quantas, a finite discrete quantas. Okay, and those quantum, the fundamental quanta is referred to as the h nu, where h is the constant and mu is the frequency of the emitted radiation. Okay, and the fundamental particles like charged particles like electrons are the primarily responsible, which are present in the black body, responsible for the standing wave patterns which are produced by the black body, which ultimately basically given a nice explanation, right? So with this, I conclude and I stop for today. And if you have any quick questions, I will take. Otherwise, I will wind up. I have to go a little outside. Please, if you want to ask any question, quickly you ask. I shall discuss I think again we shall meet on Monday, and we will discuss the remaining modern experiments.